On June 30th, 2023, Chelsea Gleason-Mitchell sent a cryptic message to her friend Joanne Gardner, saying something had gone terribly wrong with her 2-year-old daughter Isabella, and she didn't want anyone to find out. Later that same day, police found Isabella's lifeless body, and upon further examination, they realized the little girl had been dead for days. What happened to Isabella? And why did her mother leave her behind? More importantly, what was Chelsea so desperate to hide? In May 2023, Chelsea Gleason-Mitchell reconnected with her ex-boyfriend Jeff Scott. What she didn't know was that this decision would mark the beginning of the end. On June 30th, 2023, a little over a month after Chelsea and Jeff got together, Ipswich police received a call from a woman identified as Joanne Gardner. Joanne was a friend of Chelsea's, and she was calling with information about Isabella, Chelsea's 2-year-old daughter. According to Joanne, Chelsea had sent her a Facebook message stating that Isabella had died in her sleep 3 days earlier. In the message, Chelsea confessed that she and her boyfriend Jeff hadn't contacted the police because Isabella had bruises. Instead, they planned to bury her themselves. Although Chelsea had asked her not to involve the authorities, Joanne reported the situation to social services and contacted the police. She also shared with them a crucial piece of information that Chelsea had given her: the location of Isabella's body. Following the information provided by Joanne, police searched the temporary accommodation Chelsea and Jeff had been staying in. Inside the bathroom, they discovered the remains of the 2-year-old locked away. Isabella's body was concealed in a stroller covered by a pile of blankets. But Chelsea and Jeff were nowhere to be found. The couple first crossed paths in 2019 in Chelsea's hometown of Bedfordshire. They quickly connected and soon started dating. Jeff was the classic bad boy, known for his frequent use of various substances. Before long, he introduced Chelsea to cocaine, cannabis, and ecstasy. Chelsea's parents did not approve of Jeff's toxic behavior and his association with their daughter, so within a few months, their budding relationship fell apart. At the time, Chelsea was working as a nursery assistant. By December 2019, Chelsea had gotten into a new relationship with Thomas Wheildon, a painter and decorator. The couple had a happy relationship, and soon they were expecting a baby. In September 2020, Chelsea and Thomas welcomed their baby girl, Isabella. For a brief time, life seemed perfect, and the family was happy. But it didn't last. By April 2023, Chelsea and Thomas had split, and the once happy home fell apart. What followed was a bitter custody battle over Isabella. This custody battle was still ongoing when Chelsea rekindled her relationship with Jeff. As Chelsea fought for custody of her daughter, Jeff began to insist that the child was his. He believed that Isabella was his biological daughter because of how soon Chelsea fell pregnant after they broke up. In May 2023, not long after getting back together with Jeff, Chelsea quit her job so they could go on a road trip. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing, but no one could have guessed it would end up being the most tragic trip of Isabella's life. Their first stop was Great Yarmouth in Norfolk, where they stayed in a hotel for a few days. For the next 3 weeks, the couple went from sleeping in hotel rooms to sleeping in a rented caravan before ending up in a small tent on a nearby beach. While they were camping on the beach, a police officer came across Chelsea and Isabella sleeping in a tent while Jeff was out. Concerned for their well-being, especially after receiving calls from locals about the family, the officer offered to help Chelsea find better accommodations. She, however, turned down the offer, insisting they were fine.
At the pub, charging his phone at the moment.
At the old hall?
Yeah.
Tell me, right, so first of all, sort of really need to know who you are,
Yeah.
situation,
Yep.
what we can do to help, because it's not the best place in this heat for your little girl,
No.
is it?
No.
No? Are you okay? You all
Yes.
fitting well?
Yes.
How long have you been down here?
We've been here for 3 weeks.
Not long after, Chelsea tried to secure government housing by fabricating a story. She told authorities that she had just fled an abusive relationship with her ex, and even claimed that Isabella was Jeff's biological daughter. But it didn't take long for investigators to uncover the truth. Not only was Jeff not Isabella's father, but he had been abusing her repeatedly. During their trip, the couple would leave Isabella alone for hours in their rented caravan while they went out drinking at a bar. When they weren't leaving the 2-year-old to her own devices, Jeff would beat her so badly that her small body would be covered in bruises. To keep the abuse hidden, Chelsea dressed Isabella in a heavy coat and oversized sunglasses whenever they went out, making sure no one could see the marks. By June 19, 2023, Chelsea and Jeff had found temporary accommodation in Ipswich. CCTV footage captured the pair strolling around town with Isabella in her stroller. To anyone passing by, they looked like a typical family going about their day-to-day activities. But behind closed doors, the reality was much darker. Jeff continued to assault Isabella, even as they tried to cover up the bruises. Potty training had become a struggle for the little girl, and Jeff, who was tasked with overseeing the process, had no patience. Every time Isabella had an accident or made a mess, Jeff lost his temper and took it out on her. Jeff took things a step further when he started forcing Isabella to take cold showers as a form of punishment. Meanwhile, Chelsea, her mother, stood by and did nothing to stop him. When police found Isabella's body, they were clear signs that she had been physically abused, but there were still things the police were yet to uncover. An autopsy report showed that the little girl had suffered from extensive external traumatic injuries to the soft tissues of her body, including head, neck, torso, and limbs. She had also sustained fractures to both wrists and her pelvic region. Little Isabella died from a bone marrow embolism caused by skeletal trauma. The authorities believe that Isabella died in the evening of June 26th, and about 30 minutes after her death, the couple were seen leaving the temporary accommodation. What's worse is that CCTV footage obtained from the area showed that Chelsea was all smiles as they made their escape. Authorities also discovered that for 3 days, Chelsea and Jeff went around town pushing Isabella's dead body in a stroller. They pushed the child's lifeless body to several places, including a pub, a service station, and different shops where they purchased video games. Their actions made it clear that they felt no remorse for what they had done. In the early hours of July 1st, 2023, police arrested Chelsea and Jeff in the town Bury St. Edmunds.
Isabella, okay, was found alone and deceased at your home address. Okay, so I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder. You didn't have to say anything.
3 days later, they were charged with Isabella's murder. Initially, they both denied having anything to do with Isabella's murder. However, during a 7-week trial, the court heard damning testimonies and saw evidence that painted a very different picture. Chelsea eventually admitted to authorities that Jeff had asked her to buy a shovel that they would use to bury Isabella. Jeff had also made numerous Google searches after Isabella's death that showed the couple was actively looking for ways to leave the country. He searched for ways to enter countries like Scotland and Amsterdam without passports and other travel methods. In court, the prosecution argued that Isabella's fate was sealed as soon as Jeff started dating her mother. She was happy and well cared for until Jeff became a part of her life. According to the prosecution, Isabella's pelvis was severely damaged, and the damage was likely caused by either kicking or stamping or both. The jury was told that the little girl's injuries were comparable to those seen in victims of high-velocity traffic accidents or cases of being kicked by a horse. Another shocking revelation during the trial was the discovery of cocaine and its byproducts in Isabella's blood. Although the substances were found in trace amounts, it was impossible to determine how much she had consumed or when it had happened. Analysis of Isabella's hair samples showed that she had passively been exposed to cannabis. There was also a possibility that she had been exposed to secondhand smoke from a person smoking crack cocaine. Chelsea's defense team argued that Jeff had isolated her from her family and that she didn't have any money or phone on her. However, the prosecution said there was no evidence to prove that she was unable to leave her daughter's abuser and seek help. When her defense strategy failed, Chelsea admitted to the court that she did nothing to protect her daughter from Jeff because she thought it was just a phase he was going through. In the end, Jeff was convicted of murder and sentenced to a minimum of 26 years in prison. The jury acquitted Chelsea of murder, but she was handed a 10-year sentence after admitting to causing or allowing the death of a child, along with 2 counts of child cruelty. During the sentencing, High Court Judge Mr. Justice Neil Garnham referred to Chelsea as a weak, spineless, and desperate person. He said that she had been so concerned about her relationship with Jeff that she let him abuse her daughter. The judge also said that Jeff had carried out a campaign of violence and abuse that ended with the little girl's death. Isabella's father, Thomas Wheildon, will forever hold the cherished memories of his daughter close to his heart, while her killer, Jeff, and his accomplice, Chelsea, will spend the next decade behind bars. How do you feel about Chelsea's sentence? Do you think 10 years is enough for a mother who stood by and let this happen?